She only exists on my camera roll. I've always been the type of person who forgets to delete old photos from my phone. I snap pictures without thinking receipts, to expense later, dumb memes, blurry shots of my Catan, then they just stay there, buried in endless rows of thumbnails, gathering digital dust. I never thought that habit would lead me here, hiding in the dark, clutching my phone like it might explode, too scared to even look at the screen. It started about 3 weeks ago. I'd just gotten back from a weekend trip to the mountains some time alone to clear my head after a bad breakup. I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through my camera roll to pick out a few decent shots to send to my friend Dylan. That's when I noticed something strange. Among the photos of trees and rocky trails and the old cabin I rented, there were dozens of pictures I didn't remember taking. They were all of the same woman. She was beautiful in an unsettling, doll-like whey-pale skin, long black hair that hung in tangled waves around her shoulders, big dark eyes that seemed to glimmer even in the low light. Some pictures were close-ups of her face, slightly blurred as if she was moving. Others showed her standing far off in the woods, half hidden behind trees. I frowned, scrolling back and forth. I didn't remember seeing her during my trip. I definitely didn't remember taking photos of her. At first, I assumed it had to be some glitch or maybe a prank. Dylan was always messing with me, and he'd had my phone at the bar the week before. Maybe he'd downloaded them as a joke. I called him immediately. "Dude, what are you talking about?" Dylan said, sounding confused. "Why would I put random girl photos on your phone?" "They're creepy," I said, my voice tight. "She looks like, I don't know, like she's just watching me." "Okay, you're freaking me out," he said. "Send me one." So I did. I picked the clearest 1A picture where she was standing just beyond the tree line, her head tilted slightly, mouth barely curved into a smile. Her eyes seemed to look straight into the camera. A few seconds later, Dylan texted back. "What the hell, man? That's messed up. Where did you find that?" "I'm telling you, they're just here," I said. "Delete them," Dylan replied immediately. "That's bad energy, man. Get rid of that." But I couldn't bring myself to delete them. Every time I scrolled past the photos, something in my brain seemed to freeze. My finger would hover over the trash icon, but I just couldn't press it. Over the next few days, I tried to ignore it. I went to work, I watched TV, I took long showers to scrub the crawling feeling off my skin. But the photos stayed on my phone, multiplying somehow. I swear new ones would appear each time I looked. Then I started seeing her reflection. The first time was in the window of the coffee shop near my office. I was waiting in line, staring out at the street, when I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. In the glass, I saw her standing behind me in line, so close her hair brushed my shoulder. I spun around so fast I knocked into the woman behind me, a stranger, who glared at me and told me to watch where I was going. But there was no sign of the woman from my photos. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, a lingering hangover from the trip. But it kept happening. In the reflection of car windows as I walked down the street, in the polished black screen of my turned-off TV, in the silver faucet of my bathroom sink. Always the same woman, always the same dark, empty eyes. A week later, Dylan came over to hang out. I hadn't told him about the reflections, just the weird photos. He brought a six-pack and tried to distract me with an old horror movie, joking that at least I'd get some practice for dealing with ghosts. Halfway through the movie, he got up to use the bathroom. He left the door cracked, talking to me through the gap as he washed his hands. "Dude, you really should just factory reset your phone," he called out. I laughed weakly. "Yeah, maybe." Then I heard the faucet stop and silence. "Dylan," I said. No answer. I muted the TV, straining to hear. "Dylan?" I tried again, louder. Still nothing. I stood up, creeping toward the bathroom. The door was open a few inches, steam curling out into the hallway. I pushed it open slowly. The bathroom was empty, the window was shut, no sign of Dylan. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with numb fingers. There was a new photo in my camera roll. I opened it. It was Dylan, lying on the bathroom floor, his eyes wide and glassy, mouth open in a silent scream. And standing behind him, one hand tangled in his hair, was the woman from my photos. I screamed, dropping the phone. "Help me," Dylan's voice whispered from somewhere behind me, raw and strangled. I turned and saw his reflection in the bathroom mirror, but the real bathroom was empty. In the reflection, the woman was standing behind him, pulling his head back with one hand, her mouth opening impossibly wide, black and endless. Then the reflection blinked out, leaving just me, shaking, staring at myself. I ran out of the apartment and into the night, barefoot, phone still buzzing in my pocket. I didn't stop until I was 3 blocks away, crouched in an alley behind a dumpster, retching into the dirt. When I finally checked my phone again, there were dozens of new photos. Each one was darker, blurrier, like they'd been taken in a place with no light. And in every single one, the woman was there, a little closer to the camera, her mouth stretching wider, her eyes glinting with something hungry. I didn't go back to the apartment that night. I didn't know it yet, but that was just the beginning. I spent the night wandering the streets, clutching my phone so hard my fingers cramped, I didn't dare turn it off. Some desperate part of me felt like if I could just keep the screen lit, keep my thumb hovering over it, maybe I could stop whatever was happening. I couldn't go home. I couldn't call the police. I didn't even know what I'd tell them. That there was a woman in my phone eating my friend's soul. They'd lock me up in a padded room. Just before dawn, I found myself outside an all-night laundromat, neon buzzing overhead. I slipped inside, sat in the corner on a cracked plastic chair, and stared at my phone. I tried to delete the photos again, but my thumb wouldn't press the trash icon. I tried to call Dylan, but every time I dialed his number, the call dropped instantly, replaced by a burst of static and a low hiss that made my skin crawl. Around 6 a.m., I dozed off for maybe 20 minutes, head resting against the vibrating hum of a dryer. I dreamed of the woman. She was sitting on the floor in front of me, whispering something I couldn't understand. In the dream, her hair was moving, snaking across the tiles like a nest of worms, wrapping around my ankles, pulling me closer. When I woke, the laundromat was empty, the machine silent. My phone buzzed in my lap. A new photo. It was a shot of the laundromat, taken from above. In the photo, I was curled in the corner, exactly how I'd been sleeping. And standing in the shadows near the vending machines was the woman, her head tilted, staring straight at me. I lurched to my feet, heart hammering. The space by the vending machines was empty now, but when I blinked, I thought I saw the faint outline of her hair in the reflection on the glass just for a split second. I left the laundromat and started walking again. My mind was buzzing like a nest of hornets, every shadow a threat, every face on the street, something waiting to twist into hers. I don't know how I ended up at Dylan's apartment. I barely remembered the walk there, my brain caught in an endless loop of that photo, her standing in the shadows, watching me. His door was locked. I pounded on it until my knuckles went numb. No answer. I tried to peer through the crack between the blinds. The apartment was dark, silent. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the newest photo. My thumb hovered over the screen, trembling. I zoomed in on her face, on those dark eyes that never seemed to blink. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered. The phone buzzed. Another new photo appeared, just a black rectangle at first. Then the darkness shifted, and I realized it was a close-up of the woman's mouth, open impossibly wide. Inside was something moving, pale and glistening, twitching like a maggot. I almost dropped the phone. My stomach heaved. Suddenly, the air around me felt wrong. Too heavy, too still. I turned, expecting to see someone standing behind me, but the hallway was empty. I backed away from Dylan's door, heart thudding, and ran. I ended up back at my apartment just after noon. I don't know why I went there. Maybe I thought if I faced it, it would end. Maybe I was just too tired to keep running. The door was still cracked from when I'd fled. I stepped inside slowly, every hair on my body standing on end. The living room was exactly as I'd left it, TV flickering silently, couch cushions scattered on the floor. The bathroom door was shut. I edged toward it, phone clutched in my sweaty hand. I wanted to call someone, anyone, But I knew in my bones it wouldn't work. Whatever this thing was, it didn't want me to have help. I pushed the bathroom door open with my foot. The mirror was shattered, shards glinting like tiny knives. Written across the tiles in something dark and wet were 5 words. "She's inside the camera roll." I gagged, stepping back. The smell hit me thin, metallic and sour, like old blood. I clamped a hand over my mouth and stumbled into the hallway. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but my thumb moved on its own, swiping open the photo app. A new picture had appeared. It was my hallway, exactly as it looked right now. Me, standing there with the phone in my hand. And just behind me, reaching out with one pale hand, was the woman, her fingers inches from my shoulder. I whirled around, swinging my arm wildly. Empty air. Then I heard a whisper from the dark bathroom behind me. "Look closer." I couldn't help myself. I turned back to the phone, zoomed in on her face in the photo. Her mouth opened wider. Another new picture flashed onto the screen. It was the same hallway, but now I was gone. She was standing alone, staring at the camera, her hands folded neatly in front of her. I felt something cold touch the back of my neck. I screamed and bolted out of the apartment again, nearly tripping over the threshold. I didn't stop running until I was back out on the street, people staring at me like I was insane. I wanted to throw the phone into the gutter, smash it under my heel, but I knew it wouldn't matter. She was inside the camera roll now, inside the phone, maybe even inside me. I spent the rest of the day hiding in an old bus shelter by the park, jumping at every shadow, clutching my phone with white knuckles. When night fell, the phone buzzed again. A new photo. This time it was Dylan's living room, dark and empty, but in the corner of the frame, barely visible, was a shape hanging from the ceiling like a rope, like a body. I scrolled to the next photo. A close-up of Dylan's face, eyes bulging, tongue swollen and dark, rope digging into the flesh of his neck. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." Another photo appeared. The woman, standing beneath him, looking up with a serene smile, her hair flowing out behind her like black water. I dropped the phone, screaming. I heard people on the street shouting, asking if I was okay, but their voices felt muffled, far away. All I could hear was the buzzing of the phone, the endless clicking of new photos appearing, faster and faster, each one worse than the last. That was the moment I realized she wasn't just showing me the future anymore. She was making it happen. I don't remember leaving the bus shelter. I don't remember running through the streets, past the honking cars and the people staring, past the blinking neon signs and the smell of garbage baking in the summer heat. All I remember is the buzzing in my pocket, growing louder and louder until it felt like a swarm of insects chewing through my skull. Somehow, I ended up back at my apartment. I didn't want to be there, but my legs carried me up the cracked stairs anyway, my body moving like a puppet. The door was hanging off its hinges. Inside, the living room was dark, lit only by the pulsing glow of the phone screen in my hand. I stepped inside. The floorboards creaked under my weight. The phone buzzed again. Another photo. It was me, standing exactly where I was standing right now. And behind me, in the reflection of the shattered TV screen, I could see her face. Her mouth was open wide, stretching impossibly far, jagged black lines cracking her skin like broken porcelain. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the image burned itself into my mind. "Stop it," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Please, stop." Another photo appeared. This time it was the hallway outside my apartment. The door to the stairwell was cracked open. In the gap, I could see her pale face, one black eye staring through the darkness. I heard a soft creak from the hallway behind me. I turned, shaking so hard the phone rattled in my hand. The hallway was empty. I backed into the living room, bumping into the broken coffee table, glass shards crunching under my shoes. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. The phone buzzed again. "You can't hide." The letters glowed on the cracked screen, flickering like dying fireflies. The buzzing didn't stop. Another photo slid onto the screen. It was the ceiling above me. In the photo, something dark was dripping down, like thick black tar. I looked up. Nothing. Then another photo appeared at my feet. standing in a pool of that black liquid, tendrils snaking around my ankles. I screamed and flung the phone away. It skittered across the floor, screen shattering further, but the buzzing kept going, louder and louder, vibrating the air itself. I fell to my knees, clutching my ears. "Please," I sobbed. "I'll do anything, just stop." The buzzing stopped. For a moment, the apartment was dead silent. I could hear my own ragged breathing, the pounding of my heart. Then the phone chimed once. A new message appeared, glowing on the cracked screen. "Open the camera." I crawled across the floor, glass biting into my palms, and picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over the camera icon. "I don't want to," I whispered. But my thumb moved anyway. The camera app opened, showing me the room through the lens. At first, it was just me pale, trembling, eyes wild with fear. Then the shadows behind me began to shift. I watched, frozen, as the woman stepped out from the darkness, one pale hand resting on my shoulder in the camera view. Her hair spread across my back like a slick, crawling mass of worms. Her mouth opened wider and wider until it was nothing but a hole, black and endless. The phone buzzed. "Look." I couldn't tear my eyes away. I watched in horror as she leaned closer in the camera view, her mouth moving toward my ear. "Mine," she whispered. I felt her breath against my skin, cold and damp. I screamed, dropping the phone again. The screen cracked completely, flickering once before going dark. But I could still feel her hand on my shoulder, her hair brushing against my cheek. I bolted out of the apartment, down the hallway, nearly tripping over my own feet. I crashed into the stairwell door and hurtled down the steps 2 at a time, scraping my knuckles raw on the railings. Outside, the night was thick and humid, the streetlights flickering overhead. I didn't stop running until I reached Dylan's building. I pounded on his door, sobbing, praying he was still alive. No answer. I pushed the door open. It wasn't locked. The apartment was dark, the air heavy and still. "Dylan?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response. I stepped inside, eyes darting around the room. That's when I saw him. He was hanging from the ceiling fan in the living room, a rope tied around his neck, his feet dangling inches from the floor. His eyes were wide and glassy, staring at nothing. "Dylan?" I whispered. My knees buckled. The phone in my pocket buzzed, even though the screen had shattered. I pulled it out with shaking hands. A new photo appeared on the broken display. It was me, standing exactly where I was, looking up at Dylan's hanging body. And behind me, in the photo, the woman was there again, her hands resting on my shoulders, her mouth open wide, black and endless. The phone buzzed again. "Next, your turn." I threw the phone across the room, smashing it against the wall. I turned and ran, fleeing the apartment, barely able to see through my tears. I don't know where I'm going now. I don't know how to stop her. All I know is that every time I look at a reflection, I see her standing behind me, her mouth opening wider, her hands reaching for my throat. And the buzzing never stops. I've been running for days, sleeping in alleys, abandoned buildings, under bridges anywhere that doesn't have mirrors, shiny metal, or even puddles of water where I might see my own reflection. Because every time I catch even a glimpse, she's there. Behind me, closer than before. The buzzing hasn't stopped, even though my phone is dead. It's inside my head, now a low hum that vibrates through my teeth, burrows into my bones. Sometimes it's quiet, almost fading into the background like tinnitus. Other times it roars so loud I can't think, drowning out the world. I don't know how long I can keep this up. I haven't eaten in days. I can barely sleep. When I do, I dream of her, the woman in the photos, mouth splitting open wider and wider until it swallows the world. I wake up screaming, heart pounding so hard I think it might burst. I thought maybe if I destroyed every screen, every piece of glass, every surface that could show a reflection, I could make it stop. But it didn't matter. It was never about the phone, never about the camera roll. She was using them like doors. And now, those doors are wide open. I don't remember exactly when I decided to go back to my apartment. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe I wanted to end it. Maybe some small, stupid part of me still hoped I'd find some way to fight her. I climbed the stairs slowly, one by one, each step feeling heavier than the last. The door was still broken. Inside, the place was exactly how I left it. Broken glass, shattered furniture, streaks of something dark and sticky smeared across the walls. The buzzing in my head grew louder as I stepped inside, rising to a high-pitched whine that made my vision blur. I stumbled into the living room. The TV was off, the screen cracked and dark. But in the black glass, I saw her standing behind me, her pale hand brushing my shoulder, her mouth already open, yawning wider. I shut my eyes, but it didn't help. I could feel her breath on my neck, cold and damp. "Why me?" I whispered, voice shaking. "What do you want?" The buzzing stopped. For the first time in days, the world was silent. Then I heard her voice, soft and wet, whispering right into my ear. "Forever," she said. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't remember picking it up again. I didn't remember turning it back on, but the screen glowed through the thin fabric of my jeans, pulsing like a heartbeat. I pulled it out with numb fingers. The screen was whole again, not a single crack marring the glass. A new message slid across the top. "Open the camera." I didn't want to. Every fibre of my body screamed not to. But my thumb moved on its own, tapping the icon. The camera opened, showing me the room. At first, it was just me, pale, hollow-eyed, shaking. Then the shadows behind me shifted. She stepped into view, her face inches from mine in the screen. Her hair spilled over my shoulder, cold and slick. Her mouth opened wider, 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 until it was big enough to swallow my whole head. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The phone buzzed again. "Look." I couldn't look away. Her mouth closed over the camera lens in the phone, swallowing the view completely. The screen went black. Then new images started to flash across it, faster than I could process. Faces I didn't recognize, all screaming, places I'd never been. Dark woods, endless hallways, rooms filled with mirrors reflecting nothing but her open mouth. Then I saw myself again standing in my living room, phone in hand. But I was smiling, eyes black and empty, and behind me there was nothing but darkness. The phone buzzed one last time. "Now you see." And then it went dead. I dropped it. My legs gave out and I sank to the floor, shaking so hard my teeth rattled. I don't know how long I stayed there. Hours, maybe. The sky outside turned grey, then black again. Eventually, I stood up. I went to the bathroom, avoiding the broken mirror. I splashed water on my face, staring down into the cracked porcelain sink. When I looked up, I couldn't help it. I glanced at the shards of mirror still clinging to the frame. I saw her there, standing behind me, her mouth closed now, her dark eyes calm, watching me. But this time, she didn't move. She didn't have to. Because when I opened my mouth to scream, I saw nothing but darkness inside, a yawning black void that stretched on forever. I don't think there's anything left of me now. Not really. I can feel her in my bones, whispering through my veins. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see the faces of other people, strangers, staring into their phones, terrified, watching as something steps out of the shadows behind them. I think she's using me now, using my eyes, my hands, my voice. So if you're reading this, if you've made it this far, delete this message. Delete every photo on your phone. And never ever open your camera at night. Because once you see her, she never lets go. And I don't want to be alone in the dark anymore.